If you want to know the dark days of a franchise, look no further than the Buffalo Bills of the mid-'80s. In the early 80s, riding high with head coach Chuck Knox, the team made it to the playoffs and advanced the divisional round twice in back-to-back years after making the playoffs just once in the 1970s. In the late 80s, riding high with head coach Marv Levy, the team looked like one of the top teams in the AFC, even making it to the AFC Championship in 1988. But in the middle of that, before Jim Kelly left the USFL to become the team's franchise quarterback, sandwiched in between those glimmers of hope and periods of success, it was nothing but crap on top of crap, highlighted by an abysmal 1984 season, as you're watching right now, where they finished the year 2-14 and had the worst record in the NFL. At least they drafted Bruce Smith, a Hall of Famer who holds the record today for the most sacks in NFL history, with that #1 overall pick, and made the most of their suckiness, because this year was brutal. Buffalo started the season off with an 0-11 record, and ended the year with the 4th worst offense and the 2nd worst defense in the league. On 6 separate occasions, they allowed at least 37 points. Not only was that the most in football that season, but only 7 other teams even had 2 games where they allowed at least 37 points. And here were the Bills, who did it in roughly half of their games, as they became just the 3rd team since the merger, joining the 1976 New York Jets and the 1981 Baltimore Colts, to allow at least 37 points in 6 games. When your quarterbacks combine to throw 30 interceptions and post a passer rating of 52.4, which is by far the worst passer rating in the league, and is a number so bad that only one other team had a passer rating below 60 that year, and when you finish near the bottom in just about every rushing category under the sun, you're going to have a bad time. And the man in charge of this team was none other than Kay Stephenson, who was incredibly out of his element and had no business being on the sidelines as a head coach by this point. After being the quarterback's coach under Chuck Knox's watch until 1982, when he got promoted to head coach, the Bills middled in 1983 with a .500 season, in a season that admittedly started with some promise, but just like 1982, quickly evaporated in the second half of the year after the team lost 4 of their final 5 games. But by 1984, the wheels were completely coming off of the bus, and it became apparent that the man had no idea what he was doing or how to coach. Because you see, one of the biggest things that a coach needs to do, and perhaps the primary responsibility of a coach, is to help players get better. It's in the name. Your job is to coach them, figure out what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are, and how to make the most of what you've got. Much like a teacher's responsibility is in the name and is to teach the students the material and figure out how to educate them, a coach's responsibility is in the name and is to coach the players and figure out how to get them to be better. So what if you have a coach who quite literally admits that he has no idea what to do? What if you have a coach who openly admits, yeah, I have no idea what I'm doing, and this player has to figure it out, but I'm not the one to take advice from, despite the fact that I'm the coach, because I have no idea what to do or how to fix this? Well, that's exactly what happened with Kay Stephenson during a 1984 game against the Seattle Seahawks. And it's a situation that deserves a deep dive today, more than 40 years later. Because if you want to know how bad this team right here, the 1984 Buffalo Bills, ended up being, it's not hard to see why they sucked with Kay Stephenson as the coach. Because this is the story behind Kay Stephenson, the 1984 Buffalo Bills, and the man who might just be, considering the circumstances, the most clueless coach in Bills history and maybe NFL history. Make sure you hit that like button down below, subscribe, hype up that video, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single video that we post on the channel, because we post every single day on here about the weird and the wacky history of the NFL with stories like this one that you may not have heard of before. So if you like that sort of stuff, then this is definitely the place for you. Thanks in advance for liking and subscribing, and for hyping up the video, and for helping us grow this community. And with that in mind, let's talk about the Bills coach who wasn't living up to the billing. But before I talk about what Coach Stephenson said, we need some context to understand the game at hand, as well as the player in question who was struggling. It's October 14th, 1984. It's week 7 of the NFL season, and we find ourselves at the Kingdom for a battle between the ice-cold 0-6 Buffalo Bills and the red-hot 4-2 Seattle Seahawks, who are picking up right where they left off from their AFC Championship appearance the previous year. I don't think anyone expected Buffalo to win this game, seeing as the Bills absolutely sucked, and the Seahawks were 11-point favorites who boasted one of the best offenses and defenses in the league. And sure enough, the Seahawks won the game, leading 17-0 at one point and taking it 31-28 in what ended up being a close game, but admittedly was a very sloppy game for Buffalo. The Bills committed 13 penalties. Quarterback Joe Ferguson completed just 43% of his passes, and the Bills lost the turnover battle by turning it over 4 times, all while Steve Largent on the other side of the ball had another signature performance, catching 5 passes for 106 yards and 2 touchdowns, including a 51-yard touchdown in the fourth quarter that gave the Seahawks the win. The Bills lost this game by 3 points, which raises the question: could 3 points have come somewhere in the game so the Bills wouldn't lose, or at the very least, force overtime? What did the Bills leave on the board? Well, on the opening drive of the game, the Bills drove down to the 16-yard line, getting in the red zone and setting up kicker Joe Danelo for a 33-yard field goal. For perspective, this is the length of what an extra point is today. And Danelo completely missed the kick, as the Bills came up empty-handed on their opening drive of the game. And this wasn't a fluke miss by Danelo that came out of nowhere. By this point, Joe Danelo was one of the worst kickers in football. Danelo used to be solid, as you probably remember him with the New York Giants in the late 70s and the early 80s, where he finished the 1978 season with the 3rd most field goals made in football. And in 1981, his overtime kick against the Dallas Cowboys sent the Giants to the playoffs. But by 1984, he was a complete shell of himself, as for whatever reason, any accuracy he might have had was completely gone. The miss against Seattle was preceded a week earlier by a game against the Philadelphia Eagles where he missed 2 field goals. For some perspective on how bad Joe Danelo, this man right here, was in 1984, there were 28 kickers that season to attempt at least 15 field goals. Of those 28 kickers, Joe Danelo ranked 2nd from the bottom in field goal percentage, hitting just 50% of his kicks at a time when the average kicker was hitting about 75%. This means that for every 4 field goals attempted, the average kicker in 1984 was hitting 3 of them, while Danelo was hitting 2 of them. Add that up over the course of an entire season, and yeah, that's really bad. And making things even worse for Danelo was that he was 5 for 5 from inside 30 yards, as in the spot where you expect a good high school kicker to consistently hit. From outside 30 yards, Danelo was 3 for 11, hitting just 27% of his kicks. If you were outside 30 yards, you were better off just going for it on 4th down instead of trotting Joe Danelo out there. Bottom line, it was undeniable that at this point, Joe Danelo was one of the worst kickers in football, and he might have been the worst. And Danelo wasn't sugarcoating it. He knew that he sucked and that he was to blame. As Danelo said, "I haven't done anything to help the club. It's frustrating. Everybody's doing his job. The protection has been great. The snaps have been great. The holds have been great. It's just a matter of the kicker getting his stuff together. I can't look at anybody but myself. He then added, it's one thing to miss a 52-yarder, but 30 and 33-yarders? That's like putting salt to the wound. But it's never comforting, even when you miss a 55-yarder. You're in there for one reason and one reason only, and that's to put points on the board. When the offense is working its butt off, you have to do your job. So Danelo's taking accountability for his poor performance and for not kicking the ball well. But maybe he can get coached on this. Maybe not all hope is lost. If he is a coach that is willing to help him out through his problems, then maybe the Bills might have a kicker again, and maybe his career can be saved. So when head coach Kay Stephenson was asked about his kicker, being the great coach he is, Stephenson said, I don't know what the problem is. Certainly, it's a problem when we miss those short field goals. We're going to have to get them through. Joe's going to have to get the problem corrected. I don't see anything in terms of his steps, keeping his head down, his body lean. I can't see anything from a technique standpoint as being the reason. So let me get this straight. In your mind, Joe Danelo is kicking the ball perfectly. His technique has been great. He's hitting the ball in the right spot. He's doing everything he's supposed to be doing. The kicks just aren't going in. But Danelo is going to have to find a way to make them go in, but you have no idea why they're not going in because he's kicking it well, and you're not going to coach it. Wonderful. Just wonderful. And I want to make something clear. It's not like Stephenson is giving up on Danelo. It'd be different if Stephenson said this and then cut Danelo the next day. That's happened before, where a coach just looks and sounds exhausted after giving someone chance after chance and then realize it wasn't worth their energy anymore, so they cut ties with him. Stephenson kept Danelo on as his kicker, so it's not like that. Danelo is saying to Stephenson, coach me, I don't know what's going on. And Stephenson is saying, I can't. You're doing a good job hitting the ball. Clearly, he's not. He's clearly not hitting the ball well. It's not like there's an angel in the outfield moving the ball at the last second. It's not like there's a gust of wind that just magically moves the ball wide right. This game, after a game in Seattle, is inside a dome. This is inside a dome, for crying out loud. And even if it wasn't, clearly, when you're 3-11 outside 30 yards and you're missing just about everything, and are statistically speaking, arguably the worst kicker in football, you're not hitting the ball well. And Joe Danelo, to his credit, because he has eyes and a functioning brain, knew that, and knew that something needed to change. And here comes this coach saying, he's hitting it really well. I don't know what the problem is, but he needs to get it figured out because he's kicking the ball perfectly from everything I can see. Like, how does that make sense? How does that make any sense? Imagine if you're an English teacher and you failed a student because their essay was poor. The student comes to you after class and says, I know my essay was awful. Can you give me any advice on how to fix it for next time? You say, well, I don't know. You got to figure it out. Your thesis was good. Your closing paragraph was good. You gave relevant arguments and cited everything properly. Everything flowed pretty seamlessly. You have to get it figured out and do a better job next time. How would that make sense? I'd be fuming if I was the student, and rightfully so, because you just failed me, but told me I'm doing everything right. And when I came to you for advice, you're not helping me out. Yet, that's exactly what Kay Stephenson did here to this man, Joe Danelo. To say that your kicker is kicking the ball well and doing everything right, but then to say that he needs to get it figured out because we're missing too many kicks, and you're giving him no advice on how to do that while contradicting yourself with every line is asinine. No wonder Stephenson sucked as a head coach, because he forgot the part where you're supposed to actually coach. Of course, I'm not saying that Stephenson should have gone out there and delivered a 10-point plan as to how to fix Danelo's kicking issues. If he said, we've got to get this figured out, and we're going to talk with him and meet with him and break it down to see what specifically is going wrong, then this is a complete non-story. But for Stephenson to say that he's kicking the ball great, but he's been terrible, is like someone peeing on my leg and telling me that it's raining. Clearly, there's something wrong, because if he was kicking the ball well, the ball would actually be going through the uprights, and he wouldn't be in this spot where your kicker is arguably the worst in football. I don't know what's more ridiculous, this statement or the fact that somehow Kay Stephenson survived the 1984 season despite this 2-14 record and despite this inability to actually, coach. If you can't coach players, you probably shouldn't be coaching in the NFL. If your coaching consists of nothing but confusing, contradictory statements, you probably shouldn't be coaching in the NFL. And if you genuinely think that this man right here, Joe Danelo, the worst kicker in football, is kicking the ball well, but is also sucking and needs to get it figured out, but you have no idea what to do, so you're just going in circles, then you probably shouldn't be coaching in the NFL. Because when it came to Kay Stephenson and the Bills' kicking woes with Joe Danelo in 1984, every miss begins with K. Check out our live streaming schedule for the next few days. We're live every single day on this channel, whether we're covering a sporting event or playing GeoGuessr or just taking your requests. So make sure you like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single time that we go live and so that you can join this community. Also, thanks to all our members and our Patreon supporters who get exclusive perks like their name of the end of each video, members-only Q&A streams, and cool emojis to use on videos and during streams. See how you can join this community and become a member or a Patreon member by clicking the link in the description below.